Lieutenant Arlen Creed was tired. He had just finished a long double shift on the Vigilant Horizon, one of humanity's newest deep space exploration ships. For 14 hours, he had been working on navigation reports, sensor calibration, and a never-ending stream of small but urgent problems that kept a starship from drifting into disaster. All he wanted now was to get back to his room, fall onto his bed, and sleep for at least a few hours. He walked through the quiet corridor toward his quarters, rubbing his eyes. The hallway lights were dimmed to night cycle settings, and only the soft hum of the ship's engines broke the silence. Arlen liked this part of the ship. It felt safe and familiar. Nothing dramatic, nothing strange, just metal walls, soft lights, and the promise of rest. That promise ended the moment he opened his door. Someone was inside. A woman sat calmly on his bed as if she lived there. She wasn't wearing a uniform. She wasn't wearing any clothing that he recognized from any human culture or colony. Instead, she wore a smooth, silver-gray suit that fit her body like a second skin, glowing lightly along its seams. Her hair was dark and straight, falling neatly over her shoulders. Her eyes, bright and calm, shifted toward him the instant he entered. She smiled, confidently, almost as if he were the guest and she were the owner of the room. Arlen froze in the doorway. For a full second, neither of them spoke. The situation was so strange, so unexpected, that his tired brain struggled to process it. He even checked the room number above the door to make sure he hadn't walked into the wrong place. No, this was definitely his room. "Hello." "Arlen Creed," the woman said. Her voice was smooth and gentle, but there was something unusual about it. Like she had practiced speaking but was still mastering the rhythm of human speech. Arlen blinked. How do you know my name?" She crossed her legs casually on his bed. "Because I chose you." That made even less sense. "Okay," he said slowly, trying to stay calm. "Who are you? And why are you in my room?" Instead of answering directly, she looked around the quarters with quiet interest, as if inspecting something she already expected. "Your room is very, organized," she said. "A little cold, maybe, but I will adjust." "You will adjust?" Arlen repeated. "This is my room." The woman nodded politely, smile never fading. "Yes, and now, it is also mine." Arlen looked around again, half expecting to see hidden cameras and hear someone yell surprise. This felt like a prank, but no crew member would pull something like this, especially not on a senior officer, and certainly not with a stranger who somehow knew his name. He stepped farther into the room and tapped his communicator. "Creed to security, I need—" "You won't need them," the woman said calmly. That should have sounded like a threat, but it didn't. Her tone was peaceful, matter-of-fact. She raised her hand and lightly touched the ship's wall. A soft pulse of light ran across the metal. Arlen's communicator blinked, crackled, and went silent. A chill ran down his back. "What did you just do?" he asked. "I disabled your call for help," she said. "Only temporarily, of course. I do not wish to harm anyone." Arlen stared. "You can override ship systems?" She tilted her head. "Only simple ones. Your security channel is not complex." That did not make him feel better. He looked at the doorway behind him. He could run. But something about the woman's calm expression and composed posture told him that she didn't want to fight. She didn't even seem tense. She simply sat there as if all of this was normal. "What's your name?" Arlen asked, forcing his voice to stay steady. "Ceres," she answered. "Are you human?" She thought about the question for a moment. "I am humanoid, and I am alive, but I am not from your species." He had suspected that, but hearing it put his nerves on edge. An alien on board a human military ship? Impossible. The Vigilant Horizon was supposed to be secure from any unauthorized boarding. No one should be able to just walk in. How did you even get onto this ship? Arlen asked. I boarded during your last warp skip. Saris said this as if it were a completely normal action. Arlen shook his head. Boarded? We were traveling faster than light. Nothing can just— I can, she said simply. Her confidence was unsettling. Not arrogance, just certainty. Why me? Arlen asked. Why pick my room? Why learn my name? Saris studied him for a long, silent moment. Her eyes were calm, but intense, not threatening, focused. Because, she said finally, you are the only human who can help me, and the only human who can help himself. That explains nothing, Arlen muttered. Then I will explain more. She shifted slightly on the bed, still looking perfectly relaxed. Arlen remained standing near the door, unsure whether he should move closer or keep his distance. Saris raised her hand again and lightly pressed her fingers against the metal wall. The lights in the room dimmed, then brightened. The screen above Arlen's desk flickered on and displayed a shape he had never seen before, a dark cloud of twisting, moving lines like a swarm of shadows drifting through space. This, Saris said quietly, is what follows me. Arlen frowned. What is that? The Harith swarm, she said. A species that consumes entire civilizations. They destroy until nothing remains. Arlen stepped closer to the screen, despite himself. The image on the display was unsettling, like a living storm of black wires and red sparks, drifting silently through the void. You brought them here? He asked sharply. Saris shook her head. No, they were already coming. I only ran ahead of them. She looked at him again. But running will not save anyone. Arlen's heart thudded harder. A threat like that coming toward human space? That would be a disaster. A full interstellar alert, fleet deployment, evacuation protocols, and if she was telling the truth, a stranger sitting in his room might be the only warning humanity got. What does this have to do with me? He asked. Saris stood up from the bed. She moved gracefully, too gracefully, as if every motion were planned with perfect balance. She approached him slowly, not threatening but serious. Your mind, she said, is different, not in a strange way, not broken, not abnormal, but unique, rare, even among your species. I have searched a long time for someone with your exact neurological profile. Arlen almost laughed out of confusion. My brain? What about it? You have a pattern, Saris said. A blend of logic, instinct, and adaptive intuition that is extremely rare. You can see solutions where others see walls. You change when others freeze. You move when others hesitate. Arlen frowned. Plenty of humans can do that. Not like you, Saris said with soft certainty. And not with the speed and clarity I require. For what? She looked at him with a seriousness that felt almost heavy. To activate something called the last resonance. Arlen had never heard of it. And what is that? A final line of defense against the Harith, a weapon, or a shield, or both. Its purpose is simple, to protect life from complete destruction. Arlen shook his head again. Why can't you activate it? Because it must be guided by a mind that is not like mine, Saris said, a mind that thinks in strange, unpredictable ways. A human mind. Her eyes stayed locked on his. And out of all the minds I have searched in all the places I have traveled, she said quietly, yours is the one that matches. Arlen didn't know what to say. He didn't know if she was lying, confused, or telling the absolute truth of something far bigger than his imagination. He only knew one thing. Nothing about his life would be normal again. Saris stepped back and sat on the bed once more. This is why I am here, Arlen Creed, she said. This is why I chose your room, and why I will stay. Arlen stared at her for a long, tense moment. Part of him wanted to run straight to the captain. Another part wanted to shout. Another wanted to demand answers until everything made sense. But one thought rose above all others. If she was right, humanity might already be in danger. And he might be the only one who could help. He slowly closed the door. Arlen Creed did not sleep that night. How could he? An alien, Saris, was sitting calmly on his bed as if she owned it, claiming he was the only human who could activate some mysterious defense system against a civilization-destroying swarm. His room felt too small, too quiet, too normal for something so unbelievable. Arlen stood with his back against the closed door, trying to gather his thoughts. His brain raced, but Saris watched him in peaceful silence, her calm expression never weakening. Finally, Arlen spoke. "I need to report this. The captain has to know." Saris nodded, surprising him. "You may tell her." He blinked. "You're okay with that?" "Of course," Saris said. "She will not believe you at first. But she will see that I am telling the truth soon enough." Arlen frowned. "You sound very sure of yourself." "I am," Saris said simply. Arlen exhaled slowly. His communicator was still blocked, so he used the wall panel to request access to the bridge. Surprisingly, the system worked again. Saris didn't try to stop him. He opened the door and stepped into the hallway, expecting Saris to follow. But she stayed seated on his bed, legs crossed neatly, hands resting on her lap. "You're not coming?" Arlen asked. "I will stay here," she said, "until you return." Arlen hesitated. "This is still my room." Saris nodded once. "Yes, and I will keep it safe." That somehow made him more nervous. He hurried down the corridor toward the lift. An unbelievable report. When Arlen reached the bridge, the night shift crew turned toward him in surprise. He rarely came here off duty unless something serious was happening. Captain Mira Leon stood near the navigation table reviewing fleet updates. She raised an eyebrow. "Lieutenant Creed, you look like you saw a ghost." "Not a ghost," Arlen said. "Something else." Mira closed her tablet. "Report." Arlen took a deep breath. "There is someone in my room. A woman, not human." The bridge fell silent. One of the officers laughed quietly, assuming it was a joke. But Mira did not smile. She knew Arlen well enough to recognize when he was serious. "Explain," she said. Arlen walked them through everything. How he found Saris sitting on his bed, how she knew his name, how she disabled his communicator, and how she claimed humanity was in danger from something called the Herath Swarm. Every sentence felt heavier than the last. The crew didn't interrupt, except for confused looks and exchanged glances. When he finished, the silence on the bridge was even thicker. Finally, Captain Mira said, "Arlen, you understand how this sounds." "I know," Arlen said. "But she's real. I saw her. She touched the wall and the systems changed. She showed me a visual of the swarm." Mira crossed her arms slowly. "And how would an alien board our ship undetected?" "She said she entered during the last warp skip." "That's impossible," one officer muttered. "Nothing can survive inside a warp tunnel," another said. Arlen shook his head. "She said she can." Captain Mira looked troubled, unsure whether to send Arlen to medical for a stress check or sound the alarm. She trusted him, but this was beyond strange. "What does she want?" Mira asked. Arlen hesitated. "Me." The crew collectively inhaled in shock. Mira stepped closer. "Explain that." "She said I have a unique mind," Arlen said. "Something about my instincts, my problem-solving pattern. She believes I can activate a defense system called the Last Resonance, something she can't use alone." Mira stared, searching his face for any sign of lies. Finally, she spoke sharply. "Security team, assemble. We are going to Lieutenant Creed's quarters." Arlen nodded, relieved. At least they would see Saris for themselves. The stranger in the room. A group of 6 officers accompanied Arlen back to his room. As they approached, Arlen felt his pulse quicken. What if Saris had vanished? What if this was all a hallucination created by exhaustion? What if... He opened the door. She was still there. Sitting calmly, hands folded, black hair shining under the room lights, her expression soft and knowing, as if she expected visitors. The security team froze. Captain Mira's jaw dropped. Saris looked at each of them and smiled politely. "Hello. I assume you are here because he told you about me." 2 officers instinctively reached for their weapons. Saris raised one hand gently. "Please, do not aim those at me. I have no desire to harm you. And if I wished to, weapons would not help." Captain Mira recovered first. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Saris," the alien replied. "I am a traveler, a seeker, and I am your warning." Mira stepped inside, motioning for the team to lower their weapons, but not holster them. "You are aboard a protected military vessel," Mira said. "Explain how you entered." "Your warp skip created a moment of spatial thinning," Saris said. "I stepped through." "That is not an answer that makes scientific sense," Mira said. Saris nodded. "It will, eventually." Arlen recognized that confident tone. Saris wasn't arrogant. She was simply certain of her truth, even if no one else understood it yet. Captain Mira glanced at Arlen, then back to Saris. "You claim a swarm is following you." "Yes," Saris said. She touched the wall lightly. The screen flickered, showing the same dark, shifting cloud Arlen saw earlier. "This is the Haroth. They consume. They destroy. They learn from everything they touch." The crew stared at the image with uneasy silence. Arlen watched Saris closely. She didn't look proud or dramatic. She looked sad, tired, as if she had been running a very long time. "What do you want from humanity?" Mira asked. "Partnership," Saris said, "and survival." "And Lieutenant Creed?" Mira asked sharply. Saris turned her gaze to Arlen. Her expression softened, but her voice remained steady. "He is the only one who can activate the last resonance." Mira frowned. "And what exactly is this resonance?" "A bridge," Saris said, "between instinct and technology, between chaos and order, a defense created by a civilization that is gone now." "Why him?" Mira pressed. Saris approached Arlen slowly. The security team tensed, but she raised her hands to show she carried nothing. "He is what you call an outlier," she said. "Not the strongest, not the smartest, not the fastest, but his mind moves in ways that others do not expect. Humans like him are born rarely, and they change the future simply by existing." Arlen felt heat rise in his face. He had never been described like that in his life. Saris continued, "The last resonance needs a mind like his, a mind that bends instead of breaking." Captain Mira looked at Arlen again, searching his eyes for doubt or confusion. Instead, she found only the same bewildered fear she felt herself. Finally, Mira asked the question no one wanted to say aloud. "Are the Haroth coming for us?" Saris glanced at the screen, where the swarm pulsed silently. "Yes," she said. "They will reach your borders soon." "And you expect us to believe all this?" Mira asked. "You will not have to believe it," Saris replied calmly. "You will see it." The lights in the room flickered, once, then again. Arlen frowned. "What was that?" Saris looked toward the ceiling, eyes narrowing. "They have found the edge of your scanning range." Captain Mira's heart dropped. "Who?" "The Haroth," Saris said quietly. "The first wave. The ship reacts." Mira didn't waste another second. "Bridge, this is Captain Leon. Begin full-spectrum scans. Prepare for immediate evasive maneuvers." The entire ship jolted as the engines shifted power. Officers scattered through the halls as alarms rang. Arlen felt adrenaline surge through his body. The Haroth were real. They were here. Saris stood beside him, calm as ever. "This is only the beginning, Arlen Creed." "What do we do?" he asked. "We prepare." "How?" Saris turned to him. "You already know." Arlen didn't. But he had a feeling he was about to learn, and the universe would depend on it. Alarms echoed through the vigilant horizon like distant thunder. Red lights pulsed along the metal walls as crew members rushed through the corridors, each one trying to understand what was happening. No one expected danger in this region of space. It was supposed to be empty, quiet, boring. But nothing was quiet now. Lieutenant Arlen Creed ran toward the bridge with Captain Mira Leon and Saris at his side. Even in the chaos, Saris walked with calm, controlled movements. She seemed untouched by fear, untouched by doubt. She only moved with purpose. Arlen wished he could borrow even a piece of that confidence. "What exactly is coming?" Arlen asked as they hurried through the lift. Saris answered without hesitation. "A Haroth scout fleet. Small but deadly. They test before they consume." Captain Mira's expression tightened. "How many ships?" "Dozens," Saris said. "Maybe more." The lift doors opened and the bridge came into view. Screens glowed with frantic data. Officers moved between stations, calling out reports. The ship's artificial gravity steadied for a moment, then wavered again. "Captain on deck!" someone shouted. Mira stepped up onto the command platform. "Status!" The scanning officer pointed to the main display. A dark mass appeared on the star map, spreading like spilled ink. "Unknown contacts emerging at 5 light seconds," he reported. "Patterns do not match any known species." Arlen felt a chill. That dark shape looked exactly like the image Saris showed in his room earlier. Saris stepped closer to the display. "They are testing your space, testing your strength. They will not stop." Mira turned toward her sharply. "What do they want?" "Everything," Saris said. "They want everything alive, silent." Arlen stared at the map, throat dry. The Haroth were not ships, not in the traditional sense. Each contact looked like a shifting, half-formed shadow, like a cloud that could change shape at any moment. The color of the contact wasn't normal blue or green. It was black, the kind of black that swallowed the light around it. Mira clenched her jaw. "Weapons online! Shields up!" Her voice echoed across the bridge. Arlen felt his heartbeat rise. They were about to fight something humans had never seen before. First contact. Moments later, the Haroth appeared on the external cameras. Gasps filled the bridge. The creatures were not ships made of metal. They looked more like giant clusters of black threads woven together. Sparks of red energy pulsed inside them like small, flickering hearts. They moved like predators, quick, erratic, hungry. Arlen swallowed hard. "How do we fight them?" Saris answered softly. "Not with your weapons." Captain Mira didn't like that answer. "We have no choice. Fire at will." The vigilant horizon unleashed a brilliant stream of plasma bolts. They shot out into space, glowing bright blue, and passed straight through the Haroth without slowing them. The energy vanished inside the creatures as if swallowed whole. "What? What was that?" the weapons officer shouted. A moment later, the Haroth responded. A beam of dark energy shot from one of the creatures, striking the vigilant horizon's shields. The bridge shook violently. Panels fell from the ceiling. Lights flickered. "Shields down to 60%, someone yelled. "They learn fast," Saris said. "Faster than you can imagine." Arlen watched the Haroth shifting and weaving in space. For every shot the human ship fired, the swarm adjusted, adapted, grew stronger. Mira turned to Saris with desperation in her eyes. "You said Creed can help. You said there's something called the last resonance. Tell me what that is." Saris faced Arlen. "It is time." Arlen felt a cold wave pass through him. Time for what? Saris extended her hand. To do what only you can. The core. Arlen hesitated. Every instinct in him screamed for answers, explanations, anything. But the Harith struck the ship again, shaking the bridge so hard the lights went out for a moment. When they came back on, Mira grabbed Arlen's shoulder. Go with her, she ordered. If you can help us, even 1%, go. Arlen nodded weakly. Saris led him toward the lower decks. As they ran, she explained in quick, simple words. The last resonance is a living system, not machine, not organism, something in between. Arlen's voice shook. And you think I can control it? Not control, Saris corrected. Guide, shape. And you really believe my mind is special? Yes, she said. Humans have chaos inside them, but yours is balanced, focused. You can see paths others cannot. Arlen wanted to argue, but there was no time. They reached a sealed door. Saris placed her hand on it, and the metal shimmered, then slid open. Inside was a small chamber with a glowing sphere suspended above the floor. It pulsed with soft, white light. Arlen stared. He couldn't look away. It was beautiful, like holding a star in a room barely bigger than a storage closet. This is the core of resonance, Saris said. Arlen stepped inside. And what do I do? Saris walked behind him. Place your hand on it. Arlen hesitated again. Is it safe? No, Saris said honestly. But this is not a safe moment, Arlen creed. Before he could respond, another Harith strike rocked the ship. The chamber lights flickered. Arlen's decision was made for him. He placed his hand on the glowing sphere. The connection. The moment his skin touched the surface, a shock shot through him. Not pain, information, images, patterns. He saw shapes and colors he didn't understand. He felt things that didn't belong to him. His mind expanded and contracted at the same time. He gasped, knees weakening. Saris steadied him quickly. It is reading you, she said. And you are reading it. Arlen's head spun. I don't understand. You don't need to, Saris said. Just feel. Arlen tried to breathe. He saw flashes of light, waves of sound, fractured memories that weren't his. Then everything shifted. He saw the Harith. Not just the images on the monitors, but their thoughts, their hunger, their endless drive to consume. They were like a single mind spread across many bodies, always learning, always adapting. Arlen pulled his hand away with a gasp. I can see them. Yes, Saris said, and that is why you are needed. The last resonance adapts as they adapt, but it needs human instinct to guide it. Arlen swallowed. What do I do now? Saris put her hand over his. Together, we awaken it. Awakening the resonance. Arlen placed his hand back on the sphere. Saris placed her hand beside his. The core brightened, glowing brighter and brighter until the room was filled with white light. Arlen felt something connect deep inside him, like a second heartbeat, a rhythm that matched his thoughts. He spoke through clenched teeth. It's overwhelming. I know, Saris said, but keep going. The core pulsed, faster, stronger. Arlen felt his thoughts accelerating, his mind racing, ideas sparking like small explosions. He saw thousands of possibilities, thousands of paths the ship could take, the swarm could take. He saw patterns inside the chaos, and he understood. He whispered, I know how to stop them. Saris looked at him. Then tell the core. Arlen didn't speak with words. He let his thoughts flow into the sphere. The core responded instantly. A shock wave of white light burst outward, rushing through the ship like a tidal wave of pure energy. The first counterattack on the bridge, the crew watched in shock as a bright field formed around the vigilant horizon. The Harith struck again, but this time, their dark energy dissolved against the white barrier. What is that? The weapons officer shouted. Captain Mira stared at the glowing shield. A counter-resonance wave, I think. The Herath reformed, twisting their shapes, trying to adapt, but every time they changed, the white energy shifted too, matching them, blocking them. It was alive. Captain Mira whispered, "Creed, whatever you're doing, keep doing it." The aftermath. Back in the chamber, Arlen collapsed to his knees, exhausted. Saris caught him before he hit the floor. "You did well," she said softly. Arlen breathed heavily. "Is it over?" "No," Saris said. "This was only the scout fleet. The real swarm is far larger." Arlen closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the universe settle on his shoulders. But Saris placed a gentle hand on his arm. "You are not alone," she said. "Now the ship fights with you, and soon humanity will too." Arlen opened his eyes. He knew she was right. The Herath were coming, and he was no longer just a navigator. He was the key. The vigilant horizon drifted through silent space, wrapped in the glowing shield Arlen had created through the last resonance. The white light shimmered around the ship like a living bubble, shifting whenever the Herath tried to strike it. For the first time since the alarm sounded, the ship finally stopped shaking, but no one on the bridge relaxed. Captain Mira Leon stood at the center of the command platform, watching the disappearing shadows of the defeated Herath scout fleet on the monitors. Her crew spoke in anxious, hurried whispers. Engineers worked on damaged systems. Medical teams treated the injured. Only one question filled everyone's mind. If this was only the scout fleet, what would the real swarm be like? Mira exhaled slowly. "Where is Lieutenant Creed now?" The officer at the console answered. "Still in the resonance chamber with the alien Saris. His vitals are stable, but he is exhausted." Mira nodded. "He saved the ship." "Yes, Captain." Mira's expression softened. She always knew Arlen Creed was reliable, but she never imagined he would become something this important, something the ship and maybe all of humanity depended on. She tapped her communicator. "I'm going down there." In the resonance chamber, Arlen Creed sat on the floor with his back against the wall, breathing slowly and deeply. The core of resonance pulsed gently in the center of the room, calmer now, as if resting after a long burst of power. Saris knelt beside Arlen, holding a small device to his forehead that emitted a faint blue light. "What is that?" Arlen asked weakly. "A stabilizer," Saris said. "The resonance linked with your mind. That connection can be dangerous if left unchecked. This device balances your neural signals." Arlen nodded, though his head still felt heavy. "I didn't know it would feel like that. Like thinking in 10 directions at once." "That is because the resonance responds to minds with potential," Saris said, "and your potential is greater than you believe." Arlen laughed weakly. "I don't feel very great right now." "Greatness is rarely comfortable," Saris replied. Before Arlen could answer, the door opened and Captain Mira walked in. Her serious eyes scanned the chamber before she approached Arlen. "How are you feeling, Lieutenant?" "Like I ran a marathon inside my skull," Arlen said honestly. Mira allowed herself a thin smile. "You saved all of us, and probably saved our fleet from walking blind into a disaster." Arlen looked down. "I didn't do it alone. Saris guided me." Saris shook her head. "No, I guided you to the resonance. But what happened next? That was you." Mira crossed her arms. "Can someone explain exactly what this resonance is? How does it work? And how did Creed do something our most advanced technology couldn't?" Saris stood. "The last resonance was not designed by humans. It was created by a species older than your history books can describe. They built it to protect life from the Herath. But they understood something important. Machines cannot evolve fast enough to match the Herath. Pure logic fails against pure hunger." Saris looked at Arlen. "But humans," she said softly, "are different. Humans have logic, but also instinct, order and chaos, strategy and emotion. That mix makes you unpredictable, even to yourselves. And unpredictability is the one thing the Harath cannot learn from. Arlen frowned. So I fought them using chaos? Saris shook her head. Not chaos, human intuition. Mira nodded slowly. So he generated thousands of small resonance pulses instead of one large defense field. No machine would ever think of that. Saris smiled. Exactly. Arlen rubbed his temples. I didn't think. It just happened. I saw different paths appear inside my mind all at once. That is the resonance, Saris said. It amplifies your instincts. Your natural pattern recognition becomes something powerful, something beautiful. Arlen sighed. Well, I'm glad something about my headache is beautiful. Mira knelt in front of him, her expression serious. Arlen, I need to know, can you do it again? Can you use the resonance to defend us when the main swarm arrives? Arlen looked at the glowing core. Then he looked at Saris. Her expression told him everything. The scout fleet was nothing compared to what was coming. I think so, Arlen said quietly. But I need time to recover. You'll have it, Mira said, but the swarm will reach us soon. Hours, maybe less. Saris stood and faced the captain. Then we must prepare, not to flee, to fight. The calm before the storm. The next hour passed in a blur. Engineers repaired the damaged shields. Officers rerouted power to the resonance chamber. Medical teams treated the injured. Everyone moved with urgency, but also determination. Fear was still present, but so was something else. Hope. Arlen rested on a med bench while Saris and Mira discussed battle plans. He listened, even though his mind still felt heavy. The Harath will arrive in massive numbers, Saris explained. Dozens of clusters. Hundreds, maybe. Mira looked at the star map. We can't outrun them. We can't outgun them. We only have the resonance. And him, Saris said, nodding toward Arlen. Mira followed her gaze. Are we risking too much on one man? Saris answered softly. You are trusting the one thing the Harath cannot defeat. Mira raised an eyebrow. And what's that? Saris smiled. Human stubbornness. Arlen groaned. That better be a compliment. Mira chuckled. It is. The swarm arrives. The moment the Harath main swarm arrived, the ship trembled as if the universe itself exhaled. Dark shapes filled the star map, far more than Arlen expected. Hundreds of twisting black masses, each one pulsing with red sparks. They moved together like a wave, a living wall of hunger. All hands brace, Captain Mira ordered. The first Harath attack hit the ship like a hammer. Alarms screamed, panels burst, the lights flickered. Arlen jumped from the med bench. I'm ready. Saris grabbed his wrist. Focus, do not rush. The resonance listens to your mind. If your mind is chaos, the resonance becomes chaos. Arlen breathed deeply. Okay. The two of them ran to the chamber. The ship shook again. Something far away exploded. Arlen placed his hand on the glowing sphere. The resonance awakened. Light filled the room. His mind expanded. Thoughts sharpened. He felt the Harath, not as shapes, but as intentions, as hunger, as patterns trying desperately to learn his movements. Arlen narrowed his eyes. He wasn't going to let them. The resonance unleashed the vigilant horizon, lit up from bow to stern with a wave of white light. The resonance expanded outward like a massive bubble. The Harath struck, hundreds of them at once. Arlen felt their attacks as vibrations inside his head. They adjusted their patterns, trying to break through. He adjusted faster. He created pulses, small, rapid waves that confused the Harath. Then he created reverse pulses, signals they couldn't interpret. Then he generated sub-resonance echoes, tiny disruptions that scrambled their energy. Saris shouted over the rising hum, Arlen, They are weakening! I know! He yelled back. The swarm twisted in confusion. Their dark shapes flickered. Their red sparks dimmed. They can't learn your patterns, Saris cried. Good, Arlen shouted, because I'm making new ones. He unleashed one final pulse, a massive, swirling burst of white energy shaped by instinct, fear, hope, and pure human stubbornness. The white wave tore through the Harath. One by one, the shadows collapsed. The swarm broke. And then, silence. Aftermath. The chamber dimmed. The sphere went quiet. Arlen fell to his knees, breath shaking. Saris knelt beside him. You did it, Arlen laughed weakly. Did we win? Yes, Saris said softly. This battle? We won. Captain Mira burst into the room a moment later. Creed, Saris, the swarm is gone, completely gone. Arlen smiled tiredly. Good, because I'm very tired. Mira smiled proudly. You saved us. You saved everyone. Saris placed a hand gently on Arlen's shoulder. I chose the right human. Arlen exhaled and looked up at her. Saris, what now? She smiled softly. Now, humanity rises, the stars open for you, and I will help guide the way. Arlen smiled back. For the first time in his life, he felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. The universe had changed, and humanity, thanks to one stubborn, instinct-driven man, was ready to face it.